I love to talk about beginners. It's one of the funnest times of the whole entire year for me. It's a fresh start for them, and for some of them, for those sixth graders, we start in sixth grade. It's one of the last big firsts in their life. Before dating and driving and things like that. One of the last real safe start-overs for them. And those kids maybe who struggle a little bit in elementary school, they have a fresh start when they come to our campus. I guess probably my dad asks me at least once a year, so when are you going to grow up and graduate and teach high school? And he's teasing now at this point. He's given up. But I really am an arrested adolescent. I loved the teachers I had at that level. They had a profound impact on my life, from my science teacher to an English teacher who encouraged my love of poetry. I just really have a very unique interest in this age group, which maybe is kind of unusual, you know. But and obviously you do too, because how many middle school people do we have in this room? Yeah, a lot of you. And you know how fun it is to be totally responsible for them from the time they open their cases until that first concert, or that 7th grade concert, or that 8th grade concert. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is, as in the words of my student teachers, kind of hill country light. This is the way we do things on my campus, and I've stolen things from people all over for I guess this will be my 20th year at Hill Country Middle School and my 29th year to teach. Who else was 29 years? Somebody else? I knew it, okay. I heard somebody else say 29 years. This is a compilation of two things. I did a session for Texas Bandmasters a few years ago called "We've Opened Our Cases, Now What?" And then with the Ready, Steady, Set, and Sparkle. So it's a combination of those two topics for you today. I'm a big planner. I plan everything because I feel like with middle school kids in particular, you're going to get there and something's not going to be right. Somebody's clarinet will have exploded. Somebody will be sick. Somebody's parent will be upset about something. So if you can do as much as you can before the event, the more you can do, the more flexibility you have when you get to start teaching or start the event itself. But here is before the first day, and this is what we actually do in Eanes, E-A-N-E-S-I-S-D. Eanes is a little bedroom community outside of Austin, Texas. We have 1 high school, 2 middle schools, and 6 elementary schools. And there are about 900, not quite 900 kids on our campus total in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But before the first day, we have a general information meeting, and usually this happens sometimes in mid-February to early March. And it's a 1-hour meeting where all of the 5th graders and their parents come to our high school campus, and the kids go and hear our very best and brightest high school students demonstrate each instrument. Of course, you need to think about what you really need and gear that instrument up for sure. This last year we were looking for trombone players, so the trombones got to really show off this last year. And the parents are with the rest of the band staff talking about how we select instruments, how to get an instrument, what class expectations are, what kind of conflicts you might happen to have in 6th grade in regards to other activities, other classes on our campus, on our campus there are no other conflicts. It's just things like Pop Warner football or gymnastics or cheer station or those kinds of things that are family involved that they have to deal with. The instrument interview day is really fun. We stole this from some friends a number of years ago, and we usually do this at the end of March, 1st of April, and we have different stations for each instrument. For flute or for clarinet, for trumpet, we might have 2 stations because we need twice as many of those instruments as we do maybe, for saxophone, heaven forbid. I love saxophone players too, and we'll talk about that some in just a second. But we have instrument interview day, and we make that a really huge deal. We have balloons, we have giveaway bracelets, we do T-shirts, we have a banner. As soon as I get back to Austin before school actually starts, I'll be in contact with all 6 elementary school principals to give them that date, so it's on their calendar. It's going out every single week in the kids' Thursday folder. I'm sure you have some sort of elementary school regular communication in addition to the listserv that your principal might have as well. So everybody knows about that date, and usually, because there are 2 middle schools in our district, For instance, this year Westridge will have the morning time slots, and Hill Country will have the afternoon time slots. And of course, Susan Glover, their director, and I work together. If maybe there's somebody who just has to come in the afternoon from her school, we accommodate them. We work together for that. So, but we use our private staff and our student teachers. We use any of the staff that's not involved with managing student flow and parent flow that day to help us with that instrument interview day. In addition to that, we have a huge volunteer staff of parents and upper level high school students that help us with dealing with that many kids that come through. We'll see 250 kids that day. And our goal is that when they leave our building, they have chosen an instrument and they have set up their rental contract with the instrument dealer. We want those two things to happen as much as possible in that room. We use a program called Charms Music. Does anybody use Charms? And so we have a parent volunteer who's there. So as the new kids come in, they enter all of their information, the parent email. When they walk out, we've got all their stuff. Granted, they carry a little blue card around for the interview teacher to actually write some information down. And so when they get to the checkout table at the end, they are able to make a good decision about the instrument that they play. More on that in just a moment as well. Instrument interview day. Makeup instrument interviews. I really try to downplay this a lot, because I want them to come to the big festival day. I want them to come because we put a lot of effort and energy into that, and we have a lot of people who are there to help us. And they get caught up in the spirit and enthusiasm. We have posters they sign that we end up placing in their elementary schools. Look who's joined the band, pictures of them and such that we put up. So we want everybody to be there. I usually do have a makeup day right at the end of May. And I try not to schedule individual appointments. And I'm a little selfish in that regard. I think that they will take an hour to pick an instrument, or an hour and a half to pick it. They'll take as much time as you have. And I don't begrudge them that time at all. I had a little boy come a few years ago, and he ended up trying every single instrument that we had on the makeup day. And then at the end of the makeup day, his mom said, "Oh, he's going to private school. He's not coming to Hill Country." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, you had a wonderful experience here at Hill Country this afternoon." And so as a result, I find that they do a little better in groups of at least 3. They kind of learn from each other. And you can say at that point, because you've already had your instrument interview day, you really know where you've got sections that are full. You're trying to kind of manage the number of kids you have. You can kind of help steer them a particular direction, or you might see something, of course, in that child that you think, that kid's going to be a great flute player, or that kid would be a great trombone player. Yes?
What is the time frame used for that instrument day?
We start at 8 in the morning, and we go until 4:30. And it's usually like 8 to noon, a little break, and then 1:30 to 4:30, or whatever we need in the afternoon.
Like, is that during a school day?
It's on a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
It's on a Saturday. And you know, we did some school day things with people coming in the afternoon, and parents are frazzled. And they have little brothers and sisters, and they are frazzled. And granted, they might have a baseball game or a soccer game or something on that Saturday, but again, they're not going to play baseball all day long. So if they've got a baseball game in the morning and they're Westridge, they're going to come in the afternoon during my time. It's no big deal to me. No big deal whatsoever. Back to the instrument interview day itself, each of the stations, the teacher who's trying the child out is looking for things that happen naturally. And there's a little bit of instruction, but not a whole lot. And as our high school director likes to say, we're looking more than we're listening. You know, parents are, how can you determine that this is going to work for this child? Well, in about 5 or 10 minutes, you can get some pretty good clues right off the bat. And yes, indeed, we like to try and talk about what do you want to play. But sometimes when they come in and they have a little Cupid's bow and they're dying to play the flute, Mrs. Floyd says absolutely not. We just don't allow that, you know. Or somebody who's really, really teeny that's just dying to play the saxophone, that kid's going to make a great clarinet player. And if you like all the fingery stuff and, you know, you're really teeny, let's find something that you can be successful right off the bat on. You can look at the parents, because the parents come that day. The dad's really tall, and and maybe the kid's thinking, I want to play the trombone. Well, you think this is going to work. You're going to see a lot of things when you see the parents there together with the child. And sometimes when it really doesn't work, it works really well to have the parent there to see that too. Can you see that? Rather than doing it behind closed doors without the parents there, you're going to see the parent as well. We encourage the parents to bring, if they have a grandpa's trumpet or something like that at home, we encourage them to bring that instrument to that event so that we can look at it. And usually our high school band director does that. He's really good with instruments. He'll take a look and he'll counsel with the parents and say, you know, this is going to cost you about $300 to get this fixed. Do you really want to do that? Or this kind of smells funny. Do you really want to do that? You know, he's very helpful in that regard, and he'll also encourage them to go ahead and get that instrument repaired so that when school starts, that instrument's good to go. But each of our interviewers, I guess you could say, get a little quick overview of what we're looking for. They have a little check sheet. We give the kids 1 is the lowest score, and that means you shouldn't do it. I don't give very many 1s, but I tell the parents back at that first meeting that we have, that parent and student meeting, that if I give a 1 on flute, I really don't want your child to play the flute. And here's why. It's just too hard. There are too many frustrations in that regard. With going up to 5 being, you're a natural, you should probably play this instrument. This would be a good choice for you. We have 4 instruments that we consider select. Part of that is because of a limit of instruments. Oboe and bassoon, of course. I wouldn't mind having 6 oboes in the beginner class, but I think it might make me just a little bit crazy, you know. And they're adorable, but I don't have 6 instruments to lend, even if I borrowed from the high school. So we try to start our double reeds in pairs as well. We do also limit our saxophone class, and guess what? Percussion, right? Okay, so what happens with those instruments is that everybody who wants to try that instrument sees one person. And the numerical score is a double-digit score, so that more things are being assessed. So that then I can go back at the end of the day or at the end of makeup day and say, here, I'm going to take 8 percussionists and I take the top 8 scores. Before they leave, they have to pick a second instrument that they would be equally happy playing. And then I email them. I used to call them on the phone. And then I realized that there wasn't any written documentation of what I had sent to them. And if I send an email out, then they have to respond back to me. Then I know that they, you know, congratulations, you'll be playing the trumpet in beginning band classes. You're attached as your music supply list, blah, blah, blah. I go ahead and give them all of that information. Please let me know that you've responded, that you've got this email and that you're happy with this decision, and that you and your mom will come to our makeup instrument session and set up your rental contract. So it's really easy to communicate that way with the parents. I try to wrap all those second choice instruments up and those select instruments up. I try to wrap that up within about 2 weeks because, you know, everybody's anxious. They all want to know what they're going to play. They want to go online and look at video of people playing their instrument. They want to buy the T-shirts. You know, they want to get the charm, their charm bracelet, as soon as they can. So I like to wrap that up as quick as I can. And if you ever want to come down and watch us do that, if you ever want to come and visit, you're ever around, we'd love to have you. It's a lot of fun. I just got several emails just right before I left. Of course, one of them is wants to be a percussionist, and one of them. So we're trying to set another instrument interview day just before school starts, so that our counselors can build their schedules, of course. So most of these kids, before they leave, they and their parents have set up their instrument rental contract, or perhaps they have purchased the instrument outright. But the instrument dealer deals totally with that. And we do provide Straight Music is, if you know who Robert Straight is, a big musician in Texas, but it's his company, and we provide them with a list of everything we want them to have. The kinds of reeds we want them to have, the ligature we want them to have, the drop cloth we want them to have, a vocal brush for the bassoon players. We provide them with everything that we want them to have on their supply list. Our parents in our district buy their kids' school supplies before school starts so that when they walk into second grade, their supplies are there. So they're used to having the same thing happen as they come into the middle school. And the instrument dealers deliver the instrument to school the week before school begins. I make sure the name tag's on there, make sure their name is in their book. I go through all of their stuff to make sure that it's all where it needs to be. And if there are any problems, I have time to take care of that. but we do not allow them to start playing in the summer. Does anybody have any questions so far on any of that? Yes, sir.
Is this at the very end of the school year?
This is before we even start. All the kids, when we do the instrument interviews and the makeup interviews, all of that's done between mid-February and the end of May. And then the dealers actually they'll deliver the week before school begins in August. And so everything's there for them. Yes?
Is there an orchestra in your
Yes.
leadership?
Yes, we do.
Is there any conflict or crossover?
Absolutely not. Crossover, there's some, but it's kind of hard. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit too, because I'll go ahead and throw this one thing out. We have been trying for the longest time to do full orchestra on our campus. We have a this was her third year, Rachel's third year. And we talked and talked and talked about it. We just couldn't come up with a plan that really worked until this year. And we set up 10 rehearsals, and the goal was to play at the band festival, which was mid-April. And we did it. We let them sign up, kind of the way you were talking earlier, Chuck, about it. They had to commit to the 10 rehearsals and the pre-festival concert and the concert itself, and everybody loved it. So everybody wants to do it again.
Do the strings start the same year as the...
Yes. Now there are string players because we have the UT String Project, University of Texas String Project, and there's a huge Suzuki effort in our area. My own son is a product of the piano Suzuki program. So we do have kids that come in that have had prior experience. And then Rachel just goes about the business of screening them and placing them in a level that's appropriate to their ability. Yes?
You said you have some sort of form you use at that interview for recording.
It's a little blue cardstock, the kid's name, all their pertinent information. A little group. We like for them to try 3 instruments. We try to encourage only 3, because after that it gets kind of convoluted. And we try to tell the parents it's only going to take you an hour to do this.
And you have some sort of a scoring system for how they do
1 the lowest, 5 the highest, unless they're doing oboe bassoon or saxophone or percussion. And then that's a different grid. It's a totally different rubric on that. Okay. Anything else? Yes?
Is there only one instrument rental company in your area?
No, right now there is. For the longest time we had 2 really strong companies, but one has gone under. So right now Straight is our main deal. We tried to do, and we still have some online recommendations for parents, but they like to go through Straight because Straight comes by once a week, and if I have any problems with a kid's horn, I call them.
It's nice having this one.
It is.
There's no,
Well,
conflict there.
there was always a little bit of this
Right.
when there were 2 companies there, and thankfully Carrie Taylor, our high school band director, was great at keeping that settled down. Yes?
Why no private lessons before they start?
Because I want them to start the Hill Country way. I want them all to start from 0 at the same spot. We have band every day for 52 minutes in a like instrument class. If a kid has a lesson once a week for 30 minutes, and maybe they go on vacation and their teacher goes somewhere else, and next thing you know, they've only had 8 lessons. And 9 times out of 10, when they come in, they've got some bad habits. I mean, it is. I can think of one kid that has come into my program in almost 20 years now of teaching that had taken privately and ahead of time, and that was where I thought she should have been. I mean, usually there's a tonguing problem. 9 times out of 10, when a kid moves into my program, they don't tongue right. They don't know how to take the air in, or those kinds of things.
I was just wondering about your own, not moving, but your 5th grade going into 6th grade. I assume you have a list of private teachers.
Oh, yes.
Hang
Oh, yes.
out, but you don't start yet.
No, I want them to put their flute together the way I put it together. I want them to put their clarinet together the way I do it. And this is really, this is maybe it's kind of self-serving or whatever, egocentric, but I think I do a real good job of that. And I've seen other people who don't. And I want them all to look the same when I'm looking at them, when they're beginners. And I can see immediately what the problem is. I don't find that it gets them any further along. And we've tried sometimes with special need kids to get them started a little early. It doesn't really help. I don't see it helping very much. So I see more of it hurting. And then they come into the classroom and their parents say, oh, Johnny's bored. He's already had 2 months of the clarinet. He's had 8 lessons. He's had 4 hours of instruction, but he's bored the first 6 weeks. Well, usually not after I get a hold of them a couple of weeks. We're all fine after that point. Anything else? so far? All right. Again, the instrument dealers bring everything in the week before, and I can go through everything. I assign them. We don't have lockers. We have cubbies, instrument cubbies. They decorate them for their birthdays and stuff like that. Put balloons and stickers, and they're really fun. But I assign their instrument cubby, and I have their instrument in their spot, so when they come to school the first day, they can see where their instrument's going to live. All right? Okay, so the first day, I encourage kids. I probably see most of my beginners the first day of school, maybe 35 minutes or so. I don't see them that whole class period because the first hour or so we spend in our homeroom, which we call advisory, doing bonding things and icebreakers and stuff like that, and filling out forms and talking about what we did over the summer, you know, the important things. And so when they get to me, I have about 30 minutes with them. And normally I hand out a little Rolodex card and I let them print some information for me. What I'm really after, and I've already recorded this information already, but then I'll take them through the instrument room. We'll pick up their instrument. They'll bring their instrument back into the band hall and everybody sits on the floor. Why do we sit on the floor? If you drop something, it doesn't have very far to fall. And they're going to drop stuff. And we sit on the floor the whole first 6 weeks in beginner class. And it saves a lot of money and a lot of tears as well. And so they sit on the floor, and then one at a time, I open their case for them. I write their serial number on the back of their card. I let them see their flute or their clarinet. No touching. We're not ready for that yet. I close the case back up, and then they take the instrument back into the instrument room. So they can go home that first day and say, yeah, I saw my flute, I saw my clarinet, I know it's at school. I know it's there, so the parents feel good about that. But the parents also know that they're not quite ready to bring the instrument home. Okay, so our instruments don't go home for 4 weeks, sometimes 5 or 6. It depends on what Chuck and I, how we feel like things are rolling along with that particular class. We've got some things we want to cover, first of all, before we get there. Carrying their instrument. The first week of school, and some of these things we do like for the whole 6 weeks. So starting the whole first week, we don't use any music stands in front of the kids because I want to be able to see them. I want to see every single thing they're doing. So no music stands in front of the kids at all for the first 4 to 6 weeks at least. No music. We don't read any music the first 4 to 6 weeks. I told you earlier I'm a Suzuki parent, and I have really seen what that can do for your kids. Weston can memorize things so fast. And I have to think that part of it is because of the way he actually learned to listen and decode music through the Suzuki method. He's a great reader now. He just did the Engulf Cathedrals for the State Solo and Ensemble contest just a few weeks ago. So, I mean, he's a great reader, whether it's trombone playing or piano playing. But I really think that Suzuki start is what locked those things in for him.